Welcome to Inside Design with Kandrac and Kole, hosted by two nationally published Atlanta interior designers, Joanne Kandrac and Kelly Kole. These energetic women are also world travelers, charity givers, and bloggers with a wealth of information to share and stories to tell about the interior design world. Okay, now just a warning, this is going to be fun and not too serious. After all, they still do have an interior design business running at full speed.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is episode 134 of Inside Design with Kandrac and Kole, and today we have a guest. We are speaking to Mally Skok. So, as you all know, we have a lot of friends. We're connectors and collaborators and all-around lovers of people. So today, we are going to have a chat with another design friend who we know you will all adore, and her name, again, is Mally Skok. She's originally from South Africa, and now she is a Palm Beach-based interior design and textile artist. Since launching her successful interior design business after moving to the United States, she built a client base that is enamored by her creative mix of layering the new with the old and transferring homes into comfortable, colorful living spaces. Mally Skok Designs' globally inspired collection of hand-painted fabric and wallpaper designs is offered in 13 showrooms in the United States and abroad.
So in recent years, Mally launched the widely acclaimed Well-Traveled Home Capsule Collection in collaboration with Dowell Furniture and her Capricorn collection of fabrics in collaboration with Stout Textiles. Mally's design work projects range from Cape Cod, New York, Palm Beach, Newport, and the UK. She has a passion for comfortable interiors with bold designs that embrace her love of vintage pattern and color, and has achieved accolades in her top-tier design publications across the globe. Mally serves as an advisory board member at the Design Influencers Conference and the New England Luxury Design Summit. In 2020, Mally was selected by House Beautiful to be a member of its advisory council, offering a strong voice for the younger generation of designers coming up behind her in the industry. Her first book, Mally's Little Handbook, was published this past year.
And we're going to chat about that. But before we dive in, we want to let you know that this episode of Inside Design with Kandrac and Kole is sponsored by Look Walls. So another designer friend turned us on to Look Walls when we were working on a multifamily project, and we needed to create a wow that wasn't created with just typical framed art pieces. So we have now used them on many projects, and we absolutely love how they make our designs unique. They are a complete design and manufacturing studio for beautifully custom designed and printed wall coverings sold to the trade. At Look, their design studio transforms walls into works of art with custom printing, stunning designs, and exquisite materials. So check them out. We love them. Lookwalls.com and on Instagram at Lookwalls.
They're murals too, right?
Yeah,
Other
they're
than
murals.
Wallpaper?
Well, I don't even think of them as wallpaper.
Yeah,
it's like if you have the most massive wall in the whole wide world and you want no seams and one singular continuing beautiful image, that's what they create.
Look at their stuff. Look at their stuff
amazing.
Online. It's really beautiful.
Yep.
So welcome, Mally. There's so much to talk about. So
Hello, ladies.
Hello, ladies.
We first met you years ago. We sat at the same table for lunch at the Design Influencers Conference, and here we are now. Do you remember that?
I remember it so distinctly. And those were the days when really all those meetups were so new to us. I think social media pulled us all together as a design community. It did such a favor for us. Remember how it was very silent outside of your workspace in the old days? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
It was lonely.
Sure.
It was very lonely.
Well, I've got Kelly, so it's not silent and it's not lonely.
But what are you saying exactly?
But I love her.
You know what I mean? We didn't have all these friends that we connected with, which is just such a wonderful thing these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a reunion.
Yep.
And
It
we all
really is.
cheerlead for each other, and we just
And it's a kind community generally. So I love that about it too.
Yeah.
And I loved meeting you that day.
And I think back then it was Design Bloggers Conference.
It was.
Yeah,
It was,
Yeah,
yes.
it was a while
was.
back. We're like, oh, we sat with this really cool chick who makes all these cool fabrics, and she's from South Africa.
It was a very, very fun thing to sort of suddenly connect with people that you'd heard of or read about or whatever. Real faces just make such a difference.
Yes.
Well, so your background is quite unique, and I think it's really the backbone of kind of all that you do and all that you are. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I've been around the block a few times, so I think that really, you can see that influence in my life. You know, it hasn't been a straight trajectory. And born in South Africa, in Cape Town, and moved up to Johannesburg when I was a little girl. I had very young parents. My dad died when I was young, and which was really shocking. So we were 4 little kids with this 33-year-old mother, can you believe?
Wow.
And, so I come from a very female-centric household because we made do and figured it out and still had fun. And I think that is really has been part of my design philosophy, which is, you know, roadblocks are to be gone around or gone over. People get so stuck with decisions and things like that. And I just like people to loosen up and understand that there are many ways to do things and many correct answers, design answers. So there I was and got married, had little kids, and South Africa was going through a huge trauma in the 80s. And I moved with my then husband to London. 1980s, the Lady Di days. It was unbelievable. I've never seen curtains like that in my life. I mean, the festoon blinds, your swags, the silks, the bouillon fringes. Anyway, so I was married to this guy, and he was kind of controlling. I thought he would improve. I think that many divorced women should have that sort of embroidered onto a pillow.
I thought he would improve.
Unfortunately, the needle didn't go in the right direction. But in the meantime, I was this little wifey in London during this incredible time in London when everything was wonderful and there were balls and, you know, huge shoulders and 80s hair, and it was crazy. And then I met up with an old friend of mine. I was 34 years old. And he said, marry me instead. So I did. It was, it was the luckiest thing. But, you know, you have to be quite gutsy to make that decision.
Are you still with him today?
Yes. 35 years later, I think, or 32 years later. Just the nicest person. Anyway, so he said, I have to just move to the States for 2 to 3 years to launch this company. He's a geek. I highly recommend geeks as husbands.
I have one.
We both have them.
Because they just, you know, they live in their little world, and then they just appreciate when you put spaghetti bolognese in front of them. They're like, oh my God, food. Anyway, so he gave me this ruse that we just were moving to Boston. And I had these 2 little kids in boarding school in England. You send your kids to boarding school, you know, these posh boarding schools. It's heartbreaking. So I came to Boston. I had a tiny baby. The nanny ran away. She just took one look at this little town we moved into, and she was like, this is the most boring place I've ever seen in my life. I'm out. And so, you know, I was 40, I had this little baby, and my kids in boarding school, and I had gone from this thunderous, amazing life in London to the suburbs of Boston and dead silence, just trees outside. And I realized that everyone's house was kind of empty. I'd go to friends who, you know, had gone to Harvard or MIT, and they still were sitting on their, you know, futon from their college days. It just was unbelievable in Boston in those days. It was a dead zone of design. Mm-hmm. I think there was Joanne Fabrics and Simmons. You could go to Simmons and buy a little piece of fabric, but the design center was such a no-go area. Anyway, I started helping my friends with their houses with my, you know, lens of South Africa, loving things made by humans, English, and all those layers of. The one good thing about my ex-husband was that, I had that lifestyle for 10 years of staying in the odd castle and everything. So it gave me that other perspective of luxury as well as simple, handmade, and global. So I think that is basically the pattern of my interior design, just everything authentic. So started doing that, and then got some little accounts, Cowton and Towton Brunswick, in the Boston Design Center. It was like getting into Fort Knox, getting into these design centers in the old days.
Totally.
I was so shocked because in London you could just wander into Colfax and Fowler and they'd give you a little cutting. And that is how you develop your eye, by being able to look at a lot of stuff. And I just think an educated public is so good for our industry. I'm so glad the walls are coming down. How do you feel about it? Accessibility.
Well, it's gotten a lot better since, I would say, the last recession, when Joanne and I finally had the guts to walk into every showroom that had denied us previously, and they were so desperate for business that we opened up every account known to man and have maintained them and built those relationships. But it certainly wasn't like that when we started. They would turn us away at the High Point showroom. Yeah.
You had to put on your suit and blow dry your hair and go and meet this guy called Kami. I don't think he's still alive, at the Brunswick showroom. And it was terrifying. I mean, honestly, it was like sitting in the headmistress's office. And he would deign to give you an account or not.
Exactly.
It was really scary. Anyway, so I built my business and things. I was married to a geek at the right time. So from being, having no nanny and no babysitter and everything, my life definitely took a turn for the better. And, there was just such a high-tech boom, and we bought a house down at the Cape. But we worked for everything, even though, we have what I think to some people from the outside looks like a privileged life. Hard work does reward you in this country. And so we bought this nice house at the Cape, and that is my refuge for every piece of vintage that I ever buy. It's just crammed in here. And slowly but surely, people started. I had a little design shop on the main street in Concord, but nobody bought anything because they just did not understand what I was saying to them. It was meant to be like a little Nina Campbell shop, but the people were very nice. They'd come in, they'd pick up an African basket, and they'd say, "But what do I do with it?" And I knew, I was too early in the game. Then I went to India with my sister 10 years ago. And I was in the markets with her, and they wanted to, do all these strange, going on a camel and that sort of thing. And I just wanted fabrics. And my sister, who had come from South Africa, looked at me and she said, "You need your own fabric line." And it was so weird because some people know you better than you know yourself. And I had never thought I was an entrepreneur. I never really thought that I had any ideas in my head. But lots of people think that until you actually put something down on paper and you suddenly realize that you have so many ideas. You just haven't tapped into them. And, it's just, I would never, if she hadn't given me that little nudge, I would never have done it. I would never have done it. I mean, starting a fabric line, which I think I have about 160 SKUs now. How did that happen? I mean, I couldn't even dream of putting it into a spreadsheet. It just evolved over time.
It's funny how certain people see things in us that we don't even see. But like you said, just that little nudge, we don't seem to have as much confidence in ourselves as people have in us.
Especially as women. I mean, my daughter gives me such a hard time when I read things about myself or when people tell me I'm successful. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not. It's such a, it's that's that female thing where we try and, instead of puffing ourselves up, we always try and sort of step away from that sort of spotlight. I don't know why it scares us, but it scares me.
So now you have, from that beginning of your sister
nudging
shining
me.
this light on you, you have, like you said, so many fabric collections and SKUs. You've moved on to furniture design. We've heard you speak, and now your cute little book that you just published, Mally's Little Handbook, that I gave to Joanne for Christmas. So of all that, what is your favorite love? Are you still loving the fabric design, or you got other little birdies chirping in your head?
I'm a very many-faceted person. I don't stay in my lane at all, which drives my children nuts, my husband a little bit nuts. So to tell you the honest truth, sometimes when I look at all my fabrics, and some people sort of say, you have to, edit your fabric line. And I just think, why? I still love them, and I love that moment that I designed them. Like when I designed my Emmy, it was from this little dish that sits next to my desk at the Cape. And my mum used to come out here every year, and we used to have such a fun family time. And I just knew I had to do a fabric for her. Everything is meaningful. So how can you just say that's discontinued? I can't discontinue the memory of my mother.
Well,
I agree.
You have so many fabric collections. So how do you come up with these designs? Do you draw these yourself?
Yeah, I do. Lots of them. I've always loved patterns. Patterns in... I remember when I was a little girl, and this came out in an interview, that I used to get into trouble because I used to love to, with that lined paper that we had, which was to learn cursive. Do you remember how it had smaller lines
penmanship
and then the bigger lines?
Yep. Yes.
I was just constantly drawing little patterns, and dreaming. And of course, I was always in trouble with my teachers because that was much more fun than doing arithmetic. So I think that my brain has always just loved, I see patterns in, the photographs that I take, repetition and color combinations just absolutely appeals to me. And a lot of my patterns come from vintage fabrics and vintage pieces that I pick up along the way. And I love old because the stories and just the gravitas of old things that still
Wait, what was that word?
Here.
Gravitas.
I don't know that word.
It's like the
appreciation,
the majesty of things. Sometimes you look at a little bowl and you think, how are you still in one piece since 1820? How did nobody like my cleaners chip you?
Yeah,
actually.
Oh, okay. I like that word. Okay, good.
So, that's probably where but I don't bring out a season. I think that's so wasteful that people just think they have to have something for the season. If you aren't feeling inspired, or, if their money isn't money in the bank, when things go quiet in my design world, as they do, COVID, whatever, then I don't bring out a fabric. It's all very organic, and the pace is my pace that I want to take it. But every now and again, something really lucky falls into my lap. Like I met the wonderful Dahl brother-sister combination and I'd never done furniture before, loved doing a furniture collection. Furniture is so hard, by the way. Have you guys had a try?
We've heard from many people.
Yes. We've talked to many of our colleagues and have shied away from it a little bit, to be honest.
It is so complicated and so difficult to get it right. You are on the floor, the whole time underneath the chair. those people from MTL connected with me about a woven collection. And that was the most incredible experience working with such a world-class weaving company. You know, they're doing other little small lines with designers too. Mm-hmm. But that was in the middle of COVID. I went down to Pennsylvania with my mask on, with my daughter, grabbed my daughter and went into this unbelievable factory. And they make the most beautiful silks for almost Buckingham Palace quality. And then they just took my little watercolors and they turned them into such gorgeous woven fabrics. I look at them and sort of think, how did I come up with that? They're just some lucky things that happen in your life, definitely.
And I think it's very, very important, and we talk about this a lot on the show, of mixing the old with the new and really concentrating on artisan-made, authentic, hand-touched, hand-loved products, because they make a home. And when you see, you know, I travel to Guatemala a lot and I've spent a lot of time with the weavers there. And when you see the time and how they're weaving it on these looms, and you want it and you'll pay anything for it. But the story behind it and how these products just bring education and wealth to these families, not wealth, but, you know, money to live to these families. You want it in your home, and I think it's really important to have that story weaved throughout your house and your design. It's just I think what makes a home.
Yeah, I think a room that's everything brand new is very cold and has really
it sort of collapses in on itself. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I find so interesting about humans is that how do we sense that because you can really tell from a handprint or whatever that a human has been involved in the creating of that. Somehow it connects in our brain, and I think it's the lack of sort of perfection probably, but it's just that warmth that it brings into your interiors. I love buying a lot of my rugs off Etsy. I mean, it's the most amazing resource.
It really is. I bought so many rugs off Etsy.
You find your people that you trust, and you know, the little 5-star person in Morocco, and it's so amazing when, you know, you hit the buy button, and it's never a lot of money, you know, a couple of $100 for a vintage little Moroccan rug for an entrance hall or something. And this bundle arrives at your door, DHL, and, you know, all in this strange sort of sacking that comes from Marrakesh. Yeah. And there's this beautiful rug that, you know, was made in the Atlas Mountains, for heaven's sake.
And I think you're right. It's like when you talked about going into Cowton and Tout and getting the little samples, and you kind of have to train your hand and your eyes to know what's good, because otherwise everything from Target is okay with you, and Target is great, but then there's that extra fine weave or that soft hand that you really won't recognize unless you kind of try and expose yourself to this kind of stuff.
Unless somebody is kind of like a design enthusiast or is interested in these things, they wouldn't know. You know, that you could get these beautiful rugs.
That is one of my things being a designer, is that I love to educate my clients along the way. Tell them why it's right. You know, tell them why you think that isn't a good choice. But, you know, explain and treat them, you know, with respect about their choices and when you think that they're going down the wrong track. And it's time consuming, but in the end, it's their project. You know, it's through their lens with you helping. And so many of my clients turned out to be interior designers after they'd worked with me. So, I mean, it's not exactly a very good economic plan, I might say. But
well, you planted the seed in their hearts.
Teach them, don't you think that? Well, and that's why teach a lot too. Yeah.
And that's why your book is so amazing. Mally's Little Handbook, A Guide to Finding Your Joy Through My Designer Eyes. And I just, as soon as Joanne finished it, I grabbed it. And then I said, sorry, I need to borrow your Christmas present. And then we saw you speaking, and I grabbed another one for myself.
What connected with you? Because you're an educated designer. You have an eye. Did it just re-emphasize the things you already knew in the book?
For me, it kind of reminded me a little bit about Alexandra Stoddard, because when I was very, very young, I read her book, and all about how to make your home joyful and to have people and to not worry about the china and all that. And this is kind of like that. Like it just, I love your attitude towards, entertaining.
Just kind of just lessons. Little lessons on how to treat guests and how to approach a dinner party and how to find, how to really scour a flea market and just little things that I don't think people kind of really talk about that much, but are really, really important in the home. And I think you give people a lot of confidence to just relax and be their own noticer, as you say, and start practicing.
I think that is definitely, I wrote it in mind for the generation behind me, because my mum really drew us into family life. And when she had a dinner party, we helped with the table. And then I moved to the US, and especially in the Northeast, people are really, really very good about getting their kids into the soccer team and getting their SAT scores, but they forget that they have to teach their kids how to make a scrambled egg. And there's this giant hole of, how to live is more than just that kind of education. It's all sorts of other educations, like, how to be a kind person and how to look after yourself and be kind to yourself. And I don't know, I felt that some of that was missing a little bit in the society that I moved to.
Yeah. I love a person who really loves to entertain. You can just tell that they get so much joy out of preparing the meal, out of setting out the flowers, how to doing all that. And that to me is kind of like a respect thing. Like you respect these people enough.
It's a gift.
To bring them into your home. And there's certain people that make you feel really, really at home. And I think that is a gift for sure.
We had Marlo Thomas on our podcast for our 100th episode. And she was talking all about tabletop, and because she has a new line with Williams Sonoma, not so new now, but she was talking all about the things that you talk about in your book, and I just started paying more attention.
Well, as interior designers too, and you are also a designer of fabrics and other things. We can make homes beautiful, but the other part of that, the feeling that you get when you're in that home. The comfort, I
think it's all about being a generous person, because that giving of your time. I mean, we know that effortless entertaining is so not effortless. I mean, the more effortless it looks, the more effort has gone into it in the background that you just do not know about. And you walk in and everything is sparkling, and the ice is clinking on the bar cart. And that took days of thinking and planning. It doesn't just, nobody has waved a magic wand. And doing that endeavor to get it right for your friends is just a huge respect. You're right. But it's a gift.
It is
a gift. It's your gift to your friends.
So, Mally, as we wrap up, because time flies when we chat, what is next for you? Because you got a lot going on, girl.
I found leaving Palm Beach and coming down to the Cape was a a very difficult transition for me because the whole world has descended on South Florida, and it's just fun the whole time. And in fact, you know that feeling when you're an old person and you think, I have to tap the brakes because, this is just a little bit too much wine every night. So I got down to the Cape and I was like, where are all the parties? It was a difficult, it's very quiet here in the early part of the season. And this is good for me because this is when my creative brain comes alive, when I'm just putting some roses into a bowl. And I probably, and Kristen, my office manager, I always just throw her right into it, and she's on high alert when I'm quiet like this. She's knows
like, uh-oh, something's coming.
I know. I don't know what it is. I think I might just add a few fabrics that I've been thinking about. I think about my patterns for a long time in my brain before I actually even get my watercolors out. And there are a couple of things that I've been thinking about that I'd like to do. And we're actually building a house in Palm Beach, my hubby and I. So let the games begin.
Oh, that's going to be fun to watch.
My husband has got this very nice taste, but we call it sort of the Four Seasons. I don't know what it is. Four Seasons Suite in New York. Everything is we go to stay in a hotel and he's always like, isn't this nice? Because it's 2 gray sofas and a bed and, and 2 bedside
Does he realize who he's married to?
No, I don't think he does. And I'm like, well, it is nice, honey, but, anyway. So
will we be able to
project together?
Will we be able to follow that on mollyskokdesign.com or on your Instagram?
I will be. I'll be posting along the way. We are in the process of trying to get our plans passed. It is very, very strict in Palm Beach, which is why Palm Beach looks like that.
Yeah.
Because the architectural committee are up in your grill about everything. And, I don't do well with authority. So anyway, we're we're trying to get around that obstacle at the moment, but it's going to be really, really fun. And we sold our big house outside of Boston. We had a massive flood in the middle of COVID. And so this is going to be my family house, my roots. I love South Africa, but it's time I was just an American. It seems strange, but you can't spend your life looking over your shoulder for a life that's gone. And so I want to be settled here.
Well, that's awesome advice. And so people can follow you at Mally Skok on Instagram.
Yes, and then they will just know everything about me.
Excellent.
My life is an open Instagram.
Well, we love that about you.
Mally Skok Design, I sort of do my more worky things on Instagram.
Yes. Well, as you know, probably when we close up the show, we do a funny quote and a serious quote. So we're going to read those now. So I had to laugh at the funny quote because I go to the chiropractor and he's like, you have just got to relax. So this quote is all about me. I feel like at this point, if I unclench my jaw and relax my shoulders, I will probably dissolve like cotton candy in the rain. And that's Cruisin' Susan from Instagram. Because that's me.
You do clench your jaw.
I do. I clench everything. And I was so, I had such a deadline on Friday. And I was like, I realized that for 5 hours I sat in that chair and I was clenched the whole time. It's terrible.
It's anyway. But at least you realized. And some people don't realize. They have absolutely no self-knowledge whatsoever. So that's a big plus.
Yes.
Okay, so the serious quote comes from Mally Skok, and it says, if we are honest, learning to love and share your house and table takes time. So does learning to love ourselves. It takes openness. So often I hear people grumble they don't love their house enough to open its doors and share it freely with dinner guests. They tell me they don't have good taste. Good taste is not just one thing. It is totally subjective. Your house and the way you choose to entertain guests needs to be good taste through your lens, and that is all that is important. Your taste is a culmination of all our life experiences, the places you've lived, worked, traveled, and all the images sponged in your brain. No worries.
Doesn't that just summarize?
I wish I could have. I
about?
wish I could have said it in your beautiful accent.
That's everything we've been talking about.
That's right.
guys.
A perfect summary.
Yes.
So, Mally, thank you
Yes.
for joining us. I know it went quick, and we could chit-chat for so long about
I think
so
we
much.
hit the important points, though.
Good. Well, we hope you have an incredible summer on the Cape. My sister lives there too in Marston's Mills.
Lovely. Oh, lovely.
So, yes.
Well,
so
thank
we
you for
thank you.
inviting me,
Will you be at the
guys,
Design
really.
Influencers Conference, Mally? I'm sure
I
you will.
Yes.
Oh, good.
You
We'll
will.
see you
We'll
there.
I'll see you in August.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll be speaking about podcasting at that.
yes, we are
that'll
speakers this
that'll
time.
be nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I'm on a little panel. I don't know what I'm talking about, but anyway, I always have something to say, obviously.
Well, thank you, Look Walls, for sponsoring us. We love you guys. And if you want to check out more about Mally, check her out at Mally Skok, SKOK, design.com, and on Instagram at Mally Skok. So thanks, everybody, for
Thanks.
listening.
Thank you. Thank you. I loved it.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Join Joanne and Kelly weekly for a lively conversation about trends, travels to industry events, current design projects, the good, the bad, and the ugly, do's and don'ts, product recommendations, and more. Be sure to follow the fun on Facebook. They're on Instagram at Kandrac Kole, and of course, you've got to visit them online at kandrac-kole.com for more information.